Hi, it's iRacing commentator David Haynes. In 2019, I'm excited to be bringing coverage of the Champ Car Sim Series, the sim racing division of the Champ Car Endurance Series. Contested across 15 championship rounds using the 2015 Mazda MX-5, the winners will receive a free entry into a real Champ Car Endurance Series race in the 2020 season. Each points round will be broadcast live by HJBC. Head to forum.champcar.org for full information and schedule. Sign-ups are open, so get registered now. Best of luck, and I'll see you at the track. Hello, you're watching Reddit iRacing League on HJBC. This is Season 27 and Round 2. And for Round 2, we've moved to Laguna Seca, and we're back to our typical single-class racing. And that car is the RiL Mark 20 Daytona prototype, the old one, dating back quite some years, the Pontiac engine in it. We've got a 55-minute race coming up ahead of us, but we're in qualifying right now. 5-minute session, each driver getting 2 laps, and we've seen laps on the board from just about everyone so far. Antonio Alvarez is at the top of the board right now, just ahead of Giovanni Romano, and a lot of the drivers are just coming across the line to complete their second lap. I'm wondering if Antonio Alvarez will be able to improve from his 1:18.641. He crosses the line, and he does not improve on that lap. Giovanni Romano does, to take pole position away for the moment. A couple more drivers still got to complete their laps as well. The likes of David Adamczyk, Philip Linden, Dietrich also has another lap to complete out there. So plenty of drivers who can move their way up the order a little bit should they be able to put a quick lap in. Evening here in California, and the sun getting towards setting, so track conditions are pretty cool, conducive to some quick times, also conducive to lots of grip, but maybe a little bit of oversteer potentially. These cars are a little bit unsophisticated brutes, not particularly easy to drive, missing some of the creature comforts of the more modern Daytona prototypes and then the LMP2 based DPIs. That's qualifying done, and they're all going to form up on the grid very, very shortly. We'll run through the qualifying order this race of Reddit iRacing League. Giovanni Romano and Antonio Alvarez going to have the front row of the grid, the foreign contingent, we could call them, the Canadian and the Colombian alongside each other, taking jobs from hardworking Americans, but doing it well. Second row is going to be Brian Molitor and Justin Hall. Behind them, Will Gibson and Alex Coffard. Tom Ellison and Nate Franklin, 7th and 8th place. 9th place, Andrew Fawcett. 10th place, Shane Cameron. 11th, Michael Derby. 12th, John Patrick. 13th, Dylan Blanton. 14th is Ryan Verholst. 15th is Matthew Hall. 16th, Daniel Ott. 17th, Philip Linden. 18th place on the grid is going to be David K. Hall. 19th is Zach Price, who we saw a reasonable showing from last round as well. 20th is David Adamczyk. Will Jenny in 21st. Dietrich in 22nd. Jordan Beck in 23rd place. Alex Albert all the way back in 24th spot, along with Kyle Smith, it says, in 25th. Not sure we'll see that many laps out of him. 26th, Justin Lamons. 27th, Phil Gomerl. 28th, Nolan Danziger. And 29th, Ben Fawcett. Quite a few drivers struggling to get a lap in, because only 2 flying laps in a short 5-minute session, and very easy to find an off-track or an error around here. You're thinking of the corkscrew. You're thinking of the very, very fast corner at the bottom of the hill that leads up there as well. All places it's easy to make a mistake. But it's going to be a standing start in a couple of seconds time. Tough to do a standing start in these cars, very tall first gear, but we're getting ready to see how they go into turn 1. Green flag, and away goes our leader Giovanni Romano. Some drivers in the back losing just a couple spots potentially. We'll see if everyone's clear and clean into turn 1. So drama in turn 1, couple drivers off in the grass. Hall has gone for a spin as well. Shane Cameron also dropping down the order, down 6 positions. Big gainer off the start, of course, was Alex Albert, who I think has managed to dodge a little bit of that carnage. Shane Cameron has got it going again, trying to get some of those spots back. He's just taken position away from Dietrich there in the middle of the pack. Up front, the top 3 unchanged: Romano, Alvarez, Molitor, Tom Ellison and Nate Franklin making big moves in 4th and 5th. Driver around in turn 6, and big hit at the top of the corkscrew. Did just miss who that was that got sent around, but it's such a tough braking zone up there. Now, one driver just collected the back of another, sent them around for a lazy little spin. We are expecting a pit stop in this race. It's a fixed setup. All of our drivers only starting with 16 gallons of fuel on board. A couple are diving into the pit lane right now. Potentially get some damage fixed, but also it's possible to just fill the tank up, and some drivers think they'll be able to run to the end from here. Force it and Adamczyk side by side into the first hairpin. Force it on the inside, gets the move done there in his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles inspired livery. Big move. Alex Albert's just made another spot up 12. He's in a great battle here with Shane Cameron. They come underneath the bridge and into one of the more deceptive but difficult corners of this circuit. Fast, tough to sight your apex, and the exit is critical up the run towards the corkscrew, where Shane Cameron cannot outbrake Alex Albert into that famous corner, and they stay in the position they are and continue their battle. The drivers we saw into the pit lane at the end of lap 1 were Matthew Hall, Justin Lemons, Zach Price, and Philip Linden, and all of them taking just about 6 or 7 seconds of fuel, topping the tank off, I think, and hoping that that fuel will be enough to take them this 55-minute race. I have some slight doubts about that, but certainly the fuel consumption in these cars around Laguna Seca is a little bit less than, for example, it would be at Daytona or somewhere with more wide open throttle. Andrew Force also in the pit lane as well, so getting out of traffic, taking the early stop, potentially looks favourable for some, but also a lot of drivers might have picked up a bit of damage at the front. Ninth place, John Patrick, engaged in a little bit of a battle. He's got Ryan Verholst, the Minnesota Menace, right up behind him. JP goes wide through that corner that we mentioned was quite difficult. Ryan has just a bit of a nose up the inside, almost tricks JP into going too deep on the brakes. JP through the grass and the gravel and the sand out there, loses 2 spots. So clean move there by Ryan Verholst. He gets through, and so too does Dylan Blanton. So Verholst up 5 spots from where he started. Blanton now up 3. The next car behind John Patrick is big mover Alex Albert, back-to-back 2-time defending champion in Reddit iRacing League. And he has made quite a few definitive passes already in the early stages of this race. And now it looks like JP might be a little wounded. And I think Alex Albert can smell that as they come through what is technically turns 2 and 3 of the Andretti hairpin. Bit of a pack for 7th place. 4-car little scrap here. Michael Derby, Will Gibson, Ryan Verholst, and Dylan Blanton, who've just obviously gained a couple positions as well. And Derby pushes well wide through turn 6, but won't lose out too badly. Will Gibson was just not quite close enough behind to then threaten in that short uphill run towards the entrance of the corkscrew. couple of drivers complaining that the brake balance was not adjustable front to rear to suit their liking in this fixed setup race in this car. And that means that some of them might struggle through some of those tricky braking zones, especially the ones that are over some crests are a bit unsighted. Tom Ellison's just grabbed a spot away from Brian Molitor to grab third place. And only 2 seconds off the lead of the race, Giovanni Romano and Antonio Alvarez pretty well matching each other's pace like they did in qualifying and trying to skip away at the front, not quite able to do it. There's plenty of other drivers with similar enough pace, and now Tom Ellison thinks he might be able to get up there and close that gap down. He's definitely moved himself into the podium positions as it is right now. Still owes us a pit stop, as does the majority of the field. Will Gibson now under pressure from Ryan Verhulst. Verhulst goes to the inside on the exit of the corkscrew, and that's a change for 7th position there. Verhulst also a driver finding the race pace in this car to his liking, moving up through the field somewhat. With more drivers jumping down onto pit lane, we saw Alex Coffard last lap, see Michael Derby this time. So those drivers jumping in. Gibson under more pressure though, as he loses yet another spot. Dylan Blanton jumps on through. And now John Patrick and Alex Albert are queuing up behind. They're nearly going to go 3 wide, and they are going to go 3 wide. Alex Albert gives a little bit of a tap to Gibson. Gibson goes wide and through John Patrick. Both of those guys off into the grass. Very, very optimistic move 3 wide into that corner there from Alex Albert. In my opinion, not quite how I'd do it, but he has been moving up through the field and he grabbed some positions there. Bit of a cloud over that one, I think, though. So at the lead of our motor race, Giovanni Romano now under a bit more pressure from Antonio Alvarez. That gap just 3/10 this time around. They crossed the line to complete 6 laps. And the fastest lap of the race belongs to Giovanni Romano, but Alvarez was just 2/10 quicker that time around. Laguna Seca lacks too many of the long straights that would allow the slipstream to give Alvarez an opportunity to overtake. He's really hoping for a mistake out of Giovanni Romano, I would think, at this point in our race. Alvarez drops just a couple tenths further back through the twisty middle section of the circuit here. Best overtaking opportunities really look like if your opponent makes a mistake coming up the hill towards the corkscrew, or if you can get a better run off the final corner and dive down the inside into the hairpin at the start of the lap. And Alvarez hasn't been able to do quite either of those yet. Deeper down in the order, 15th place is David Adamczyk. Michael Derby, who's already taken his pit stop and has put him into a bit of a traffic, and Daniel Ott. So Derby, obviously one of the slightly quicker drivers, but having taken that pit service, pushed him a little further down the order. He's now losing time, unable to get through David Adamczyk. Matthew Hall is sorry, that was someone else a bit slow in front of them. Might have been a lap down car, but Derby now trying to go around the outside of the final corner, gets a little bit of a tap, goes around, and now finds himself face to face with the number 24 car. That is Ben Fawcett, who is a couple laps down. So working his way through the traffic, a bit dangerous there for Michael Derby. Goes for a spin, loses a bit of time. Hopefully not too much damage. on that car there for him. And Andrew Fawcett, one of his fellow Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles driver who's also taking his pit stop, comes through and takes advantage from that. Tom Ellison's plight to try and catch the leaders of this race is looking pretty successful, actually. The fastest car on the track last time around, they're coming to complete one more lap. He's just 1.5 seconds off the lead. Last time I mentioned it, he was about 2 seconds back. So Tom Ellison, having burnt off a bit of fuel, warmed up the tyres, is finding himself with a little bit more pace than our front two of the grid. Alvarez not quite putting as much pressure on Romano as he was earlier, and has a bit of a slide into turn, I think it's 4 as well. Alex Albert making a move on Dylan Blanton, and he's got that one done. So Albert now up into 6th, 18 places gained, and I don't know if he fully messed up his qualifying, or if he's just really trying for that Dick Insider hard charger of the race, which I feel like we can't give to someone who didn't set a qualifying time. But nevertheless, Albert enjoying his charge up through the field. 12 seconds off the lead. He's worked his way through a lot of the traffic and up into 6th place. But there's 4 seconds that cover the top 5, and then it's another 8 seconds back to Albert, who has quite a bit of time ground that he's going to need to make up to stand on the podium here. Very close in our leaders for the race, I think. The top 4, top 5, not a whole lot really to separate them, very equal in pace. So our top 3, as Tom Ellison's found another 2 or 3 tenths to close into the lead. Alvarez starting to drop away in pace a little bit. Alvarez, for the first time, more than a second behind the leader of the race. It was a little bit wide, 2 tires on the dirt. Ellison with a good run up the hill, but I don't think he's going to be quite close enough. So Ellison now putting more pressure on Alvarez, and Alvarez is putting on Romano. Cheeky little look to the inside from Tom Ellison will not be fruitful. Very difficult to pass through there if you don't have a cooperative driver that you are racing. So I'm getting a bit lower in the sky. The headlights becoming more noticeable as we head in towards sunset, and with 41 minutes of racing left to go, it'll definitely be quite dark by the end of this one. Romano now 1.2 seconds clear in the lead. Ellison going to have a dive down the inside. Alvarez sees it coming, leaves the door open. It's all about who can get the traction down off the exit, and it's Tom Ellison who moves himself up into 2nd. From 7th on the grid, he's got great pace. With pace like that, he's definitely going to close in on Giovanni Romano as well. With the short length of the lap here around Laguna Seca, just looking at over 1 minute for a lap, and wondering when our leaders are shortly going to become engaged in quite a bit of traffic. Indeed, looking at my track map right now, and I really only give it a couple of laps before P1, P2, P3 are all going to be thinking about working through a little bit more traffic indeed. So that's something that we might see these guys jump into the pit lane rather than get held up in traffic. That's always something that is a consideration for our race leaders. Fastest car that time around was, again, Tom Ellison. Takes a little bit out of the lead of Giovanni Romano. Alvarez sticking with him relatively closely. 15th place in the field, though. Daniel Ott is holding off two cars that have already made their pit stops in Andrew Fawcett and Michael Derby. Ott doesn't need to get out of the way. This is a race for position. Fawcett and Derby, having already made their pit stop, are losing time to other cars that could be battling. Every lap they stay behind. So Fawcett down the inside, but not particularly bold on the brakes. Needs a bit of cooperation from Daniel Ott to get that pass completed. Michael Derby will probably be the next to try and size up the number 29 car of Daniel Ott. Fawcett now going to try and scamper away. Derby probably doesn't want that to happen. Uphill towards the corkscrew. Derby closing on Daniel Ott, who looks to have maybe just a tiny bit of front end damage. Ott very, very, very deep on the brakes, makes just a little bit of contact with Andrew Fawcett. Doesn't send him around, but he has to check up hard, and Michael Derby takes the opportunity to jump on through. Difficult braking zone. Daniel Ott didn't get it right, came in too hot, had to almost come to a complete halt to avoid contact with Andrew Fawcett. And Michael Derby didn't need another invitation, so those two go on through. I think Derby's now going to try and size up Fawcett. Derby looking just a little bit quicker. Down towards the hairpin. Derby not close enough. Lead of the race, though. Ellison has closed in that gap. Giovanni Romano leads, as he has done almost every lap from pole position. Tom Ellison within half a second now. It's been within 3/10. Ben Fawcett pulls to the side and graciously lets the lead battle carry through uninterrupted. Tom Ellison looking for an opportunity or a weakness from Giovanni Romano, who is typically relatively unflappable. Behind them on third and fourth, though, Antonio Alvarez's great pace has started to fade off just a little bit because Brian Molitor coming back at him as well. So battle for first and second, battle for third and fourth. The pit window definitely already open. So I wonder if in any of these battles, some of the drivers might try and come in earlier and perform an undercut. Even though they'd be carrying more weight of fuel, it's tough to get a pass here. You can be quicker and not be able to get the move done. Fawcett and Derby continuing their move up through the field, trying to put positions on cars that have yet to have pitted. Fawcett already through on Phil Gommel. Michael Derby looking for a way through, and he gets an unconventional approach there as Gommel pushes a little bit wide, leaves a line open through the apex, and Michael Derby jumps on through. And another position gained for our early pitters of Andrew Fawcett, Michael Derby, the highest car that has taken a stop. It's Alex Coffard running in 12th right now, 33 seconds away from the lead of the race. And with a 30-second or so pit lane transit time here, could definitely find himself in the top 5 after everyone in front pits. Not a whole lot of time needed stationary to put fuel in the car, but slow pit lane speed, difficult pit entry, difficult pit exit, all those things conspire to mean that the total time lost from a pit stop relatively significant here at Laguna Seca in these cars. Four-car battle it is now for the lead of the race. Alvarez has managed to find a little bit more on that last lap. Brian Molitor still sticking with him. Just 2 seconds cover our top 4 cars. We've just now clocked over 20 minutes of racing. And that's all that separates them. Alvarez has just gone and set his fastest lap of the race, the 1:19.143. That's what's helped him close back up to Ellison and Romano. And Molitor was not too shabby in 4th place either. So anyone's race to win at this point in the top 4. And then don't forget, from 4th place behind Molitor, it's only 2 seconds back to Nate Franklin. Any issues for this top 4 could definitely see him grab some spots. Sort of the middle phase of the race right now. We've had some teams and some drivers pit, some still out. So the middle of the field, not quite as many battles as earlier, sort of waiting on drivers to either run out of fuel and need to pit, or decide that jumping in the lane before the tank is empty is the way to go. Except for this top 4 battle, which is our best battle right now. Gain of the top 4. Antonio Alvarez was the fastest that time around. He's closed right back up, just a couple of tenths behind Tom Ellison. A little bit of sloppy run through the hairpin that time, but other than that, Antonio Alvarez was quick in the first couple of laps, seemed to have kind of faded away, and now it's coming back to him. So I don't know quite what's going on there. Can't really attribute that to setup or anything like that, because it is a fixed setup between all the drivers here in this race. Romano with a lapped car in front of him that he is approaching could affect his race. Going up the hill towards the corkscrew. If he's not passed before the corkscrew, he may well get held up through that technical and slow section of the course. Gives a little bit of caution, and I think that's allowed Ellison to close up on the brakes. Alvarez too. Headlights in full effect on these cars, but I don't know if you can flash them. I haven't seen that yet. Romano will stay behind once again into the final corner, but it's really checked up the top 3 to within 7 tenths. Romano looking to get by down the inside of the hairpin. Not yet either. Now he gets in as that car goes quite deep on the brakes, off wide, and lets our top 4 cars through. Over 11th place, Alex Coffard was shaping up a move on Will Gibson, who then dived into the pit lane. So after 17 laps, Will Gibson has decided he's going to come into the pits. There's just fuel there for Will Gibson. We look back at Daniel Ott and John Patrick. JP, another one of those drivers who's taken a pit stop, should be fueled to get to the end. Daniel Ott has not yet. So this is another one of those moves that John Patrick needs to get done swiftly if he's not going to lose too much time. Tony Alvarez from 3rd place, the first of that lead pack to blink and come into the pit lane. John Patrick going to take it 3 wide though in trying to make a move on Daniel Ott. Can't quite do it, not brave enough. It's the car of Shane Cameron, who might be a lap down. I'm not sure. David Adamczyk, my apologies, it was, who is 2 laps adrift of the lead of the race, I think. A couple more drivers in the pits as well. Dylan Blanton also taking it. So at this point, quite a few drivers getting that service done. Tom Ellison from 2nd place had a spin on the exit of the corkscrew there. He's lost quite a lot of time, and he's not been able to get it facing the correct way again. He's had to give it a bit of a spin. Now he's facing the right way, but he's lost 13 seconds to that. Brian Molitor, who was fourth, was third, was second, now jumps into the pit lane as well. Tom Ellison, I think rather predictably, coming into the pit lane as well after that little incident, going to try and fuel up the car to get to the end, reset his focus. Unfortunate for him there, he was looking very, very racy at the lead of the field. Alex Albert moves up into third place, hasn't taken his pit stop yet. Again, his move up through the field just took a little bit of fireworks for the lead pack, and he's gone and gained himself another position. Long stop for Brian Molitor, 17 seconds stationary. So is that he took tyres and that no one else is, or was that a pit lane speeding? I think it might just be a case of tyres, and I can't imagine it'd be damaged. He has a fast repair available. He wouldn't need to spend any time getting damage fixed. So Romano, Franklin haven't pitted. Alex Albert yet to pit as well. But a lot of the rest of the field now making that mandatory required pit stop on account of the fixed setup with limited fuel. Pit lane getting busy, and now Nate Franklin will also make use of his pit crew for what he's going to hope is the only time in this race. So realistically, the battle for the lead now and the win now between Romano and Alvarez, because the spin for Ellison, long stop for Molitor, both cost each of those drivers 10 seconds or more. Alvarez not setting the timing screen alight after his pit stop. Romano still managing pace similar to what he was earlier in the race. So a good stop for Romano might seal the win in this race for him, or at least put him in a position to be clear enough of Romano to be able to take the race home from there. Great four-car battle that we've had now, all separated on track. Battle over third, though, between Verhulst and Cameron. Into the corkscrew, there you go. Ryan ahead of Cameron. These two have swapped positions once or twice, but I think it is Verhulst who has the upper hand here, and there might have been a slowdown for Shane Cameron, giving up quite a lot of time. Very easy to get one of those through the corkscrew if you're too aggressive. He's now going to jump into the pit lane, which is also a sneaky way to clear a slowdown if you need to. So Shane Cameron going to make his first pit stop. Now only about 6 or so cars that have yet to have pitted. That's Romano, Albert, Verhulst, Justin Hall, Daniel Ott, and Phil Gommel. Jordan Beck yet to have pitted, but a couple of laps down. Trying to look at exactly how many Halls we've got in this race. It's Justin Hall, David K. Hall, and Matthew Hall. So I've got to be careful when I say anything about those drivers to not get them confused. Battle over 7th place. Alex Coffard, Brian Molitor. We mentioned long pit stop for Brian Molitor. He stopped 11 seconds longer than Alex Coffard. That's why he's come out behind him. And this is a straight fight for position. Molitor trying to recover some of those positions that he lost from the long pit stop. Justin Hall comes into the pits from in front of them, and these two drivers will swoop by him. So it's now the battle over 6th and 7th. And with Tom Ellison just a couple seconds behind them, and we know when he gets his head down, he can be pretty rapid as well. He showed that in the earlier phase of this race when he closed up and caught the lead. Could seal the deal on it. Another pack forming up, and Justin Hall is going to exit right in front of this battle between Cameron, Fawcett, and Michael Derby. They've got Dylan Blanton right in front of them as well. So a lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on track together. Alex Albert, 10 seconds off the lead, up in second place. But Hall, Fawcett, and Derby all together on track. And Fawcett looking at Shane Cameron. Both of them rather wide indeed on the run up the hill. Michael Derby, is he close enough to do anything about it? Going to try and look around the outside of Fawcett. Doesn't work. Another car comes into the pit lane. That's Ryan Verholz. Big wiggle though from Andrew Fawcett. He's going to lose out a spot. Michael Derby's going to come on through. Fawcett's going to try and come back. Gets very close to the rear of his, not teammate, but wearing the sister paint. They both go deep on the brakes into the final corner. I think this is a better exit though for Fawcett. He goes side by side with Michael Derby. As these two continue to battle, it helps Shane Cameron, who was under pressure and now has a little bit of breathing room. Side by side into the hairpin. Fawcett to the inside. Bit of damage that he's picked up from one of the curbs. I think quite a few of the cars have damage on the front clip from the curbs. From the left-hand side corner into a right-hand corner. A little bit of a bump there between Derby and Fawcett. Derby has the inside this time and manages to defend around the outside of the hairpin, which gave him the inside for the next two corners. Fantastic bit of racing between those two guys. Romano and Albert yet to pit. Everyone else has that's in contention for our top 20 or so spots at this point in the race. And Alvarez right now, that last time around, was almost a full second quicker than Giovanni Romano, who has yet to pit. So all shaping up now for Alvarez to maybe undercut Romano for the lead of the race. We'll see. Alvarez 25 seconds away from the lead of the race. Took Alvarez 29 seconds in the pit lane, so it'll be very close, I think, once Romano takes his pit stop. Alvarez doing everything right now to not lose touch of that lead. Battle forming up over 5th place with Alex Coffard, Brian Molitor in the middle of the Team Tortoise cars, and Tom Ellison trying to recover some more spots up the back here. We saw Molitor trying to get past Coffard earlier, and he's not been able to do it yet. And it's let Ellison really close up. Now Ellison within a car length. And the little bump given to Brian Molitor from Tom Ellison. Molitor holds on to it, and Ellison does not get past just yet. Into the final corner, drive off here, so important. These cars have a big wiggle sometimes when they're trying to put the power down in first gear, and on that AstroTurf out on the exit as well. No positions change here between 5th, 6th, and 7th, but it's a great little scrap that these guys are having. Again, Alvarez about 6/10 faster than Giovanni Romano. I don't know what's causing the pace to drop off for Romano. Maybe he's nursing a little bit of damage that he'd be able to get fixed with a fast repair once he takes that service. But as it is right now, Alvarez now only 22 seconds adrift of the lead. Romano with 1 minute, 21 second lap. A full 2 seconds off his best of this race so far. As it's going right now, his race is starting to fall away from him a little bit. Molitor and Ellison, though, over 6th place. Ellison has another look into the final corner, but I think if anything, just compromised his run out of the corner. It's not close enough to make a move into the hairpin unless there's a mistake from Molitor. And again, Ellison dives it in deep, but without any overlap, trying to put the power down faster than the driver in front somewhere, but Molitor just not making enough mistakes. This battle between them continues to let Coffard hold on to that 5th place. So a couple less battle packs than what we had earlier, really just thinking about Coffard, Molitor and Ellison, but then also that proxy battle for the lead that's happening between Antonio Alvarez, who pitted 9 laps ago, and is trying to undercut Giovanni Romano, who is yet to pit. Romano found a little bit more pace that last time around, back into the 1 minute 19s after that sloppy lap in the 1 minute 21s. And Alvarez still quicker again this time around though, 4/10 quicker than Romano. Ellison getting the move done on Brian Molitor. Molitor's going to try and fight back. All very, very close to contact there, but Ellison holds on around the outside. Close racing, but clean racing between the two. Ellison up into 6th. Molitor looked a chance to battle for the lead of the race earlier, now down into 7th place. So pit stops for almost the entire field, with the exception still of Romano and Albert, who go past the pit entry and stay out for one more lap. Again, they obviously decided that they're going all in on this strategy, taking that starting 16 gallons of fuel as deep as they can into the race. Better late than never. Nate Gang joins the YouTube chat. And your boy's running in 4th position right now. There's 2 cars ahead of him that have yet to pit. He might just be able to get on by. Be close between him and Alex Albert, I think. Giovanni Romano still has enough over Nate Franklin. Franklin was the fastest car on circuit last lap around with 1 minute 19.5. It's right on board with the man of Nate Franklin driving for Club Pennsylvania. I think because of the dramas we've seen for Tom Ellison and Brian Molitor, Nate Franklin definitely a look in for the podium, and definitely a chance of 2nd place as well. Got a bit of traffic in front of himself, quite a bit of traffic, goes down the middle, 3 wide, and then has another car on the exit as well. A healthy grid for round 2 in Reddit iRacing League of almost 30 cars, most of them still running. Laguna Seca certainly a bit of a shorter lap than some other road racing circuits as well, so the traffic's definitely playing a role now for a lot of our leading drivers. A race that goes green like this in a car that's not commonly used and a little bit difficult to drive like this one. Not hard to go just a minute off the lead and end up a lap down. So that's why there is seeing about 10 or so cars on the lead lap of the race. Tom Ellison has closed up on his Team Tortoise pal of Alex Coffard. Two of them come across the start-finish line. Coffard just out of reach of an attack this time. Molitor's still trailing along behind and was actually the fastest car on circuit that time around. Gets balked by a bit of traffic though, as we mentioned. It's definitely plenty out there. I saw some flashing headlights though, so it is possible to flash the headlights in this car. It continues to get darker now, 23 minutes past 8 in the evening session time. The flashing of the headlights becomes more and more noticeable in your mirrors from the cars behind. 13 minutes to go, and Giovanni Romano again stays out. The pit lane not calling his name yet. We've seen him go very, very long on the fuel in some other races earlier in previous championships as well. So when he needs to look out after the fuel and he thinks he can do it, definitely a driver capable of driving fast and economically. Ellison under pressure from Molitor. Doesn't happen into the final corner, but a big checkup from David Adamczyk pushes Alex Coffard back into the grips of Tom Ellison. They're going to go side by side, maybe 3 wide into the hairpin. Coffard loses out. Ellison up into 5th place. The rest of the train going to try and get their way on through. Brian Molitor can't get past David Adamczyk yet. Adamczyk almost takes a dive back at Alex Coffard. I don't think they'll be happy with that treatment. Adamczyk around. Brian Molitor gets caught up in that as well. Molitor probably not going to be happy with that at all. He's still going to hold on to 7th place for the moment because of the gap that he had over Ryan Verhulst behind, but it's definitely taken him back from Ellison and Coffard. Michael Derby and Shane Cameron swapping positions over 10th. Derby in front for the moment. Come towards what's been one of the most difficult corners on the circuit. Both of them keep it mostly within the confines of the paved stuff. Cameron can't do enough up the hill to make a move. Dylan Blanton behind them, also a chance of catching up and making it a 3-car battle as we head into the last 12 minutes, round 2, season 27 of Reddit iRacing League. Having lost out through some of the traffic, Alex Coffard is trying to get the spot back from Tom Ellison. They're within about a car length of each other. And Ellison runs a little bit wide, but so too does Coffard. They're pretty equally matched in the run up the hill. Not going to present a whole lot of opportunity for Alex Coffard to make a move on his sister car. Count them, there's about 6 turtles in today's race, and almost all of them turtly enough for the Turtle Club. The run down the hill after the corkscrew was very beneficial for Tom Ellison, who has just a little bit more reprieve from Alex Coffard. Great pack forming up though over the final spot in the top 10. I think Derby and Cameron have been battling each other a little bit, and Dylan Blanton's been catching them, and Andrew Fawcett's been catching them. Was the fastest car out on track last lap around. It's going to change now that they all cross the start-finish line once again. 10 minutes to go, and 4 cars fighting over 10th place have all taken their pit stop. All ought to be well and truly fueled to get to the end. Bit of a balk there that Michael Derby cops. Shane Cameron going to try and take advantage of it. Dylan Blanton uses it to close up as well and slides on past that traffic. Alex Albert from second place into the pit lane leaves Giovanni Romano as the only car inside the top 10 yet to have pitted. Looking at where Alex Albert will maybe rejoin the race. Well, Alvarez goes on through. Franklin and Ellison and Coffard might do so as well. Still a fantastic move up through the field from Alex Albert, who started in 24th on the starting grid. And it was a starting grid, stationary start, unconventional for these cars that were very much used to rolling starts in the Grand Am Sports Car Championship. So Alex Albert gotten himself out and rolling. He's actually in front of Allison and Coffard. He's got 4th place locked up right now. Interesting to note here is that he was 8 seconds behind Romano before he pitted, who is also pitting now. He ended up 33 seconds behind, so we're looking at a pit delta of around 25 seconds. Antonio Alvarez was definitely within that window. We're going to want to keep an eye on that. Romano needs a perfect stop here. Fuel going into the purple 99 right now. 7.4 seconds. Big burnout getting it rolling. It's a little bit longer than Alvarez, who's already through before Romano has taken the pit exit. So Antonio Alvarez into the lead of the race with 7 laps to go, about 8 minutes left on the clock. And that lead that Alvarez has close to 3 seconds at this point. So his strategy of pitting 17 laps earlier has worked out. He's been able to put in enough pace in the meantime. Now that Romano has pitted, he's come out 3 seconds shy of the lead. Alvarez just needs to keep a cool head at this point. Romano needs the best laps of his life right now if he's going to win this race. Alvarez has the car of Justin Lemons in front of him for traffic, but after that, circuit's pretty clear. There's another 1-lap car that separates Alvarez from Romano as well, and whoa! Alvarez goes very deep into the final corner, nearly collects Justin Lemons. That'll cost quite a bit of time for Alvarez, who flashes his headlights. It's costed about a second, so we have a gap for the lead underneath 2 seconds between Alvarez and Romano. Romano, though, still has Will Gibson in front of him. And finally, Alvarez gets by Justin Lemons. Will Gibson's going to follow through as well, using the leader as a pick in his own little battle there. Those two battling over 15th and 16th. Will Gibson and Justin Lemons are now separate Alvarez and Romano. That gap now down to 1.4 seconds, though. So Alvarez was rather frustrated by that traffic and the amount of time it cost him, knowing that he's got Romano charging up behind in the last 6 minutes. Romano still has Will Gibson between himself and Alvarez, though. Into the corkscrew goes the Canadian. Tense battle for the lead then. End of this race. We've had 50 minutes of racing so far, and it's all led to the gap between first and second being 1.9 seconds. Alvarez, lots of clear space in front of him. Romano still needs to get past Will Gibson. Gibson's pace is pretty reasonable at this point in the race, though, but he's going to leave the inside of the hairpin open. Romano on through. 1.9 seconds, still the gap. Alvarez to Romano. It's also closing up a little bit in the battle for third place, though, because Alex Albert was pretty rapid last time around, and Nate Franklin's pace was in the 1:20s, so the gap there, about 2 seconds, but Alex Albert took a solid chunk of 8/10 out of it on the previous tour of the circuit. Quite dark now. It is in the last 4 or so minutes. Alvarez crosses the line. Our prediction saying there'll be 4 more laps. Romano 1.6 seconds behind. It's going to be close. Nate Franklin pulls out a little bit of pace to try and respond to Alex Albert. Then Alex Albert pulls out his personal best lap of the race, a 1:19.174. 1.5 seconds to lead. 3 minutes left on the clock. Gonna get 3 more laps when they pass the line this time. Alvarez trying to hold on from Giovanni Romano. Both of these drivers, I believe, race winners in Reddit iRacing League in the past. Romano definitely so, particularly in some stock cars and oval racing. He's been a champion before in Reddit iRacing League. Alvarez, hoping that his mother's racing meal was of sufficient quality this time. And 2/10 faster on that lap was Romano, but it's not quite enough. Time is running out. And to throw out the cliche that we always have to, catching one thing, passing another, Romano could get all the way to the gearbox of Antonio Alvarez and still not find a way to get through and make a pass. And I imagine Alvarez would put up a rather stout defense this late in the race. Tension's getting to me here. 1.2 seconds. Alvarez to Romano. Romano is closing, not quick enough. Alvarez just not making the mistakes that Romano would need to close even further. The gap almost down underneath a second, just outside of that amount. Romano's 7.4 seconds of fuel give him absolutely no worries to the end, but Alvarez, one of the shortest pit stop times in the whole field, if not the shortest. He'll be hoping there's enough left in the tank to power his Pontiac V8 on the final lap. There'll be 2 laps to go because as they crossed the line that time, there was about 1:20 on the clock. We did not see the white flag. They'll do one more time, and it'll be the white flag this time around. The pace of the race has meant that it was right on the bubble there. We're going to see maybe 1 lap longer than Alvarez had predicted when he made his pit stop earlier. We'll see. I don't want to curse our Colombian, but he's definitely been one of the drivers playing it a little bit riskier with the fuel numbers. 8/10 the gap, less than a minute of racing remaining on the clock, although we will get about another 2 more minutes from here. Romano not as quick through the corkscrew as he's been on previous times, lost out a couple of tenths there. That's been one of the places that he'd actually been gaining on Alvarez in previous times. The final corner for the penultimate time goes Antonio Alvarez. He comes out onto the pit straight. 5 seconds left. White flag waves. 1 more lap to hold on to try and take the win. He's got 1 second ahead of Giovanni Romano, who's really not close enough to throw a Hail Mary at any point here. He was not close enough to make a dive into turn 2 and the hairpin. He's not going to be close enough in the corkscrew unless there's a mistake from Alvarez, and Alvarez doesn't need to push it anywhere. He just needs to not make a mistake. not open up an opportunity and not let Romano close on this final lap. Six tenths, Romano had a good run up the hill towards the corkscrew, but still will not be close enough. Through the iconic corner for the final time, our 2 leaders, the gap 5 tenths. Romano, is he going to be close enough for a dive into the final corner? Does not look like it at the moment. Alvarez will try and hold on. Romano will think about it, but he's not close enough. So the final throttle application for Alvarez. He's done it. He's held on. Checkered flag waves. He flashes the headlights. He scrapes the wall. And your winner is Antonio Alvarez. And I don't think I can describe how delighted he appears with that. Romano fought him hard all the way. The gap at the end of the race there, just under 4 tenths of a second. Nate Franklin's going to come home for third. Alex Albert's going to get fifth. It's a great battle between Andrew Fawcett and Shane Cameron, yet to be decided. They are going to come towards the final corner. Andrew Fawcett in front of Cameron, who takes a big dive, takes a big lockup, but isn't going to be able to take 11th place away from Andrew Fawcett, who also flashes his Teenage Mutant Ninja headlights and scrapes the wall on his way to the line. Shane Cameron will get 12th. Only a couple cars left to take the checkered flag. The likes of John Patrick and Phil Gommel and Matthew Hall are going to come across and see the checkered flag and will be able to take a look at our final standings. Lots of chaos on the cool down lap as well. These are all outdated cars. They're really not going to need them after this race, so go ahead and dent as many of those panels. You're not going to need the spares. So the finishing order is your winner, Antonio Alvarez, with 56 minutes and 19 seconds of racing. He completed 42 laps to be just 4 tenths ahead of Giovanni Romano, completing the podium. Nate Gang are delighted. Their boy Franklin gets third spot and gains 5 positions on his way to be there. The big mover, Alex Albert, gets 4th place from 24th on the grid, a big plus 20 next to his name, and a decent haul of points for him as well. 5th place, Tom Ellison, might be a little frustrated with that one, and understandably, but he still finishes in the top 5. Alex Coffard gets 6th. Brian Molitor in the end is 7th place. Ryan Verholst in 8th. Justin Hall 9th. Michael Derby 10th. We saw Andrew Fawcett and Shane Cameron cross the line in 11th and 12th. Dylan Blanton 13th. John Patrick 14th. Will Gibson 15th. Justin Lamons gets 16th, and Philip Linden and Phil Gommel had a little bit of a fight over 17th and 18th. Matthew Hall in 19th, Zach Price in 20th, first car 2 laps down, along with David Adamczyk in 21st. 3 laps back, we're looking at Jordan Beck, and then deeper down the order and retirements is Ben Fawcett, Daniel Ott, David Hall, Will Jenny, and Dietrich. Turning no laps is the slacker Kyle didn't even lift Smith. And Nolan Danziger also didn't take the start. We thank Kyle Smith for his fantastic effort here on production and producing this broadcast. I've been guilty in the past of joining a session as a driver and not a spectator, so I appreciate his efforts. That's our finishing order here in Reddit iRacing League, and we will try and grab a word with our race winner if he hasn't burned out the bulbs in his headlights. So the man of the hour and our race winner, we have Mr. Antonio Alvarez, and a very, very tough fight at the end there. Did you have enough fuel?
I was marginal, just had that lap left.
But a great fought race in the end. Big difference in strategy between you and Giovanni Romano. You fought in the early phases of the race, and then for 17 laps, you were apart. You set great lap times then to take the lead of the race after Romano pitted. But how about the pressure at the end?
Yeah, it was really tough. I saw that I could get a couple corners better, but yeah, it was getting busy, so I had to find a clean piece of tarmac and then like the lap times later in the race. It was just defense and keep it in cool, and it worked.
What was the racing meal that helped you to the top step of the podium today?
I haven't eaten yet. I'm waiting
Oh, a
for
different
it.
strategy than usual. Okay.
Yeah, it seems Undertake work today,
And tell us
both
about
in
this
pits and in
Riley
mill.
Daytona prototype. What's it like to drive around here?
It was pretty good, pretty neutral. You just have to be patient with the throttle so you don't have too much understeer, but it was good.
And a win in round two, you must be delighted with that. Uh, is it too early to think about a championship for Alvarez?
I just wanted the win. It was pretty special because it was because of pace, and that makes it even better. Well, I don't think I can hold this for a long time, but a race is good.
Congratulations, good win, good race. We're all delighted for you. Anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone that made this possible. I want to thank this time for a drink, for maybe beer is.
Well, thank you, Antonio. We'll let you go celebrate however you do. Go to second place, Giovanni Romano, and a great battle there at the end. Do you think staying out long was the best strategy, or was it just did it just all come down to the pace between you and Antonio?
Well, I guess it was a coin flip on the strategy. It's either come in the lap later after Antonio and hope that I come back out in front of him, or I decided instead to just go along and hope that I had a little bit better luck with the traffic. And turns out I was just a little bit worse on the traffic, and I came out just behind him. But I think we were very close on pace. So it was a really good race, though.
Saw quite a lot of traffic. Of course, Laguna Seca is a pretty short lap, and we've got a good turnout again in Reddit iRacing leagues. So, I mean, dealing with the traffic, how was that?
It was definitely interesting. With see again with so many cars on such a small track, it's a bit packed out there. There was definitely one or two times I got a bit stacked up in the traffic and lost a little bit of time, but I'd say everyone was pretty courteous, and I didn't really have any major issues, so it was good. It was definitely fun working through the traffic. So yeah, not bad.
And the gap first to second in the end, just 0.38 of a second. If there was one more lap, could you have done it?
Well, it would have been really close for sure. I came out about 2 seconds ish behind him, and 2 to 3 seconds behind him, and managed to reel him in. But yeah, maybe one lap, maybe two laps, because you really have to get close at Laguna Seca to pass. It's not really many passing opportunities. Primarily the first corner, and then maybe the last corner if you're lucky. So yeah, one or two more laps would have been good.
Second is still a good result, good points, and I think you'll also grab the fastest lap of the race as well. So, I mean, overall, are you not too disappointed with the second?
Well, I think I personally, in my head, I drove a really good race. So I was really happy with myself. I didn't make any mistakes. The only time I really lost was in traffic, so I have to be happy with myself with that. Antonio just drove the slightly better race today, and he came out the winner.
Well, anyone you want to thank while you're on HJBC?
As usual, thank you guys for the podcast. Much appreciated. And to the admins. And thanks to Antonio for a good race. But hopefully Shredder doesn't end the league now. Please have mercy, Shredder.
There we go. We'll roll on to our final interview. Just to please the hashtag Nate gang, we've got Nate Franklin, third place finisher. A little bit anonymous for half of the race, just sort of running your own thing, and then issues for the likes of Ellison and Molitor means you get to stand on the podium, Nate.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of running my own race, like you said, and just trying to mind my own business, stay out of trouble with the traffic. I didn't take new tires. I think Molitor might have taken new tires based on his pit stop time. So I think that might be what put him behind me. But Tom had a little spin, and yeah, I was just trying to stay off the sausage curb so I didn't get any major damage, and I was able to do that. So
And I mean, we don't often get to drive this Riley Daytona prototype. It was almost outdated in its day, and it's even more outdated now. So, what's it like to drive in a fixed setup? What's most challenging about it?
I think for this track, especially, the gears kind of didn't line up just right. There was some corners that were a little awkward, or you're hitting the rev limiter as you're approaching it. And you also have to blip the downshifts. So it can get a little tricky if you try to downshift to a lower gear while you're turning in. You can upset the car pretty easily. So other than that, it's definitely more nimble than the successor, the C7 DP, but it still can bite you if you're not careful. But overall, it's less horsepower, so it doesn't destroy the rear tires quite as bad. So I think it's a fun little car as long as the track temperature is a little bit cool, which we had tonight. So
Any closing thoughts or thanks?
yeah, just a big shout out to the huge ass team that finished in second at Petit Le Mans this weekend, and also the GT3 team with Antonio and Alex. All those guys were P5, so we had a really good result this weekend, and overall, it's a pretty good racing weekend.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're going to wrap up coverage of Reddit iRacing League here on HJBC. Our producer has been Kyle Smith. I've been David Haynes, and we want to thank you all for tuning in. Good night.